I never imagined my success would be treated like a crime. I was 24, finally standing in front of my first house, the dream I had built from scratch. 2 jobs, no vacations, no handouts, and no sleep for years. I thought my parents would be proud when they came for the family barbecue I hosted that weekend. But instead, my mother pointed at me, her face red with rage, and screamed in front of everyone, "You stole your brother's future." The laughter, the joy, the smell of grilled chicken, all froze. And a week later, a man in a gray suit knocked on my door and handed me court papers. My parents were suing me for ruining my brother's chances. That was the moment I decided they'd regret ever trying to destroy me. I'm Samantha Price, the so-called independent one of the Price family. Since I was 16, I've lived on my own terms. While other teenagers begged their parents for car keys or allowance, I begged for extra shifts at the diner downtown. I worked mornings at a bookstore and nights serving tables just to save enough to rent a one-room apartment. My parents, Martin and Clara Price, always told me, "We're saving for your brother, Daniel. He has potential." Daniel, 2 years younger than me, was their golden child. Lazy, spoiled, and arrogant. He failed classes, crashed cars, and burned through every dollar they gave him. But to them, Daniel was the future. I was just the responsible backup. I didn't complain. I learned early that no one was coming to save me. When I was 18, I started taking online business classes. By 20, I was working for a real estate firm as an assistant by day and waiting tables by night. I skipped parties, wore thrift store clothes, and ate ramen for dinner while saving every cent. And finally, at 24, I signed the papers to my very first house. It wasn't a mansion, but it was mine. White fences, a small garden, and a porch swing I built myself. So when I invited my family over for a small barbecue to celebrate, I thought it would be a healing moment. Maybe they'd see I'd made it without them and feel proud. Maybe Daniel would be inspired. I was wrong. The barbecue started fine. My dad nodded awkwardly, sipping beer. My mom faked smiles and complimented the curtains. Daniel arrived 2 hours late in a borrowed BMW, acting like he owned the place. "Wow, Sammy," he said, smirking. "You really lucked out. Bet you couldn't do this without Mom and Dad's help, huh?" I smiled politely. "No luck, Daniel. Just hard work." He rolled his eyes. "Yeah, sure." Then my mother stood up, clinking her glass to make a toast. "Everyone, I just want to say how impressive it is that Samantha bought a house. She's done so well, while her brother has been struggling after losing his college funding because we had to help her instead." I froze. The entire yard went silent. "What?" I asked quietly. She looked at me with venom. "Don't act innocent. We told Daniel we'd help him start his business, but that money's gone now. You had to have gotten some of it." My voice shook. "Mom, I never took a cent from you. You didn't even pay for my prom dress, remember? I've worked every day since I was 16. Dad slammed his beer can on the table. "You've always been ungrateful. Daniel should have had this kind of success. But you," he jabbed a finger at me, "you took everything from him. You're selfish." I laughed bitterly. Selfish? For working 2 jobs? For not depending on you? But before I could say another word, my mother shouted so loudly the neighbors looked over the fence. You stole your brother's future. That broke something inside me. I told them all to leave. Every single one of them. A week later, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to a man in a gray suit holding a stack of papers. Are you Samantha Price? He asked. Yes. You've been served. You're being sued for emotional distress and financial damages by your parents and brother. I took the papers, blinking in disbelief. What? He nodded sympathetically. Apparently, they're claiming you manipulated them into denying your brother financial support. I laughed out loud. It wasn't funny, it was insane. But as I read the documents, something inside me shifted from shock to fury. If they wanted war, they'd get it. I didn't have money for a fancy lawyer, but I had intelligence, and every email, receipt, and tax record I'd kept since I was 16. I pulled up every old message from my parents where they ignored my pleas for help. Every time they told me, we can't afford to help you because we're supporting Daniel. I organized it all neatly. Then I found Daniel's social media posts, videos of him partying in Cancun, holding champagne bottles, captioned, "Thanks, Mom and Dad, for the best birthday ever." That was his struggling period, apparently. I gathered everything, texts, bank statements, even witnesses from my workplaces who could confirm I'd supported myself since high school. And just for fun, I hired a young, hungry lawyer named Grace Miller, who loved underdog cases. You want to fight this? She said, smirking as she flipped through the lawsuit. Because this is going to be fun. Oh, I'm not just fighting it, I told her. I'm going to make them wish they'd never met a courthouse. The hearing day came fast. My parents arrived dressed like saints, Mom in pearls, Dad in a suit, Daniel pretending to look humble. The judge, a sharp woman named Judge Hernandez, read the claim aloud. You're suing your daughter for emotional distress and financial interference? Yes, Your Honor, my mom said tearfully. She took advantage of us, and now our son's future is destroyed. The judge frowned. Did she borrow money from you? No, Mom said. But she manipulated us emotionally. She made us feel guilty for helping our son. Grace leaned over and whispered, "Oh, this'll be good." When it was my turn, Grace stood tall. Your Honor, my client has been financially independent since the age of 16. We have extensive documentation, tax records, employment letters, lease agreements, and over 100 pay stubs. She's never received financial support from her parents. Ever. The judge raised a brow. Is that true, Mrs. Price? Mom's face twisted. Well, we intended to help her at some point. Intended, Grace repeated, smiling. But didn't. Then she dropped the real bombshell. Your Honor, while the plaintiffs claim financial hardship due to helping their daughter, here are the bank statements showing they transferred $22,000 to their son Daniel over the past 2 years, funds he used for luxury vacations and gambling. The courtroom gasped. Daniel's face turned pale. That was for business research. Grace showed another photo, Daniel on a yacht surrounded by bikini models. In Monaco. Even the judge smirked. Mom tried to object, but it was too late. The judge leaned forward. So, to clarify, you're suing your daughter for being successful while financially supporting your son's bad habits. Silence. The judge shook her head. Case dismissed. And this price, you're entitled to countersue for defamation and harassment if you wish. My parents' jaws dropped.